Hello, this is Ross Pittman with ConsciousLifeNews.com. Today we are interviewing Gail Thackray, a medium, a healer, and an author. Could you tell us a little bit about your background and what led you into this field?
Well, Ross, actually I was completely normal until I was 40. You know, I thought people, when they were psychic, they were somehow born that way. But for me, one day I couldn't do any of this, and the next day it was open for me. And when I say mediumship, it means talking with loved ones on the other side. And we all do that. We all kind of have that intuition, we get messages, but a lot of time we just don't trust ourselves. And I ended up actually teaching people how to do it. But what happened for me was, I had done Reiki, and I think a lot of people have done Reiki. It's kind of an energy healing, and somebody gives you kind of an attunement to spirit, and they open you up and they do this attunement. And so when they did this, you know, they put in these sacred symbols and they opened me up, and I went, okay, didn't really feel anything, to be honest. And I started doing Reiki on people. And when I touch them and do Reiki, and they go, oh wow, that was amazing, you know, my knees healed, and this happened, and I'd be a little bit like, really? Because, you know, I thought that maybe they were kind of a bit mind over matter. Right. And I went to an event just a few weeks later, and there was a psychic there, and she was really good, and she was going around the room and picking loved ones and talking about people who passed over. And I'm thinking, oh, please pick me, pick me. But she didn't. And she was doing a workshop that weekend. So I thought, well, I've got the workshop, I'm going to get readings all weekend. So I went to this workshop. It's called How to Become a Medium, which I really didn't think anything about. And she had us doing an exercise, which is, you know, just kind of imagining the spirit sit next to you for somebody in the room, and then you know, you say who this spirit is, right? So the first people get up and they're like, oh, I sense this person here, and it might be a man, could be a woman, might be tall, might be initial A or E or B or F, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, these people are really like sensing somebody, and I've done this wrong, because I just made mine up. And so anyway, I get up and I'm like, well, mine's for this guy over here, and it's his Grand Pierre Massé, and I'm talking in French. They're talking to me in French, but I didn't really understand, but somehow it was in English. And he had a scaffolding company, and he was supposed to take it, his dad took it, and he became a pilot, and this is what his house looks like, and this is what he did, and this is how his grandfather passed away, and I thought I was making it up. And I look over, and the guy goes, what's his name? I am a pilot, you know. Everything was true. He's freaking out. He's freaking out. I'm completely freaking out, because I have absolutely no idea how I've done this. And it was just like a door opened for me. And, you know, then I was told, well, you know, it was because you did the Reiki. It opened you up. Really? You know? And for me, it came on so strong, I had to actually like have an off button. It was like they're standing in line going, hey, we got one that can hear us. And I thought, well, if I can do it, you know, everybody can do this. We just don't realize that there's this other world all around us that's available. But it is. So that's how I became a medium. And then, of course, I got more into the healing, the Reiki, and I would then, you know, get messages. And I'd find that I could actually, when I do Reiki, or even just when people would come up, I started doing demonstrations, people would come up on stage, and I'd feel it. I'd feel like, you know, something going on in my hip. And I'd say to them, do you have something on your hip? And they'd go, I just had surgery on my hip, and I had this. And it, you know, I think at first I thought I was making it up, and I just didn't believe it. And then it was too accurate not to be true. And now I teach people to do this kind of stuff.
Wow, that's fantastic. You've been to Brazil a number of times. You've gone down and spent time with John of God, and you've even written about your experiences. What originally led you to do that?
Well, you know, I heard about John of God. He was on Oprah. He healed Wayne Dyer of leukemia, and his name kept popping up, and people kept talking about him. But I thought, well, you know, I don't need to go. It's not like I have an illness or anything. As doing healing and mediumship, I mean, I thought, well, it would be really interesting, but I didn't have a reason to go. And of course, you know, things lined up, and I ended up getting there anyway. So I go down there, and I went there for an experience by myself, and as soon as I got to this town, I mean, I'm a medium, so I can speak with spirits, but it was like, here they were like walking next to me. Like, these spirits are so close, you can touch them. And even people that are not very sensitive would say, I don't know, you can just feel this warm energy. And I went to see John of God, who's a real person. But when you go to see him, it's actually not him that you're seeing. He's actually a medium. Now, whereas I'm a medium and I kind of get messages and intuition, he's actually a full trance medium, meaning like he goes to sleep and these spirits come inside his body. So he goes, he incorporates, the spirit comes inside him. And when you go to see him, it's not really him, it's a spirit. And there are different spirit doctors that work through him. And you can go in front of him and you can say, well, you know, I've got this back problem, or I've got cancer, I've got this ailment. But you can also say things like, you know, I've got this problem in my relationship, or can you help me with my career, or even financially. And he says that it's God that heals. He says he doesn't heal, it's God that heals, and these spirits work through him to help adjust our energy and to put us more directly in touch with divine source. And so when I went down there, you know, I'd met these people and they said, oh, I was cured from cancer 5 years ago, but, you know, I come back every year. And I said, well, you know, if you're cured, why do you come back? And they said, oh, it's not about the cure. You know, that's, you know, the physical illness was taken away, but what caused that in the first place, you know, it heals from the soul level. It's kind of this opening. So these people are all talking about how they just feel amazing. They feel like they're now on their soul purpose. They feel more in tune. Their life opens up. Everything starts to flow better. And it's not just about the physical healing, which takes place and is miraculous, but it's more than that. It's something deeper than that. And, you know, for me, it was a similar kind of thing that really struck me. And one day I went to see John of God, and I was asking him about business. I'm asking about a business question, and I go in front of him and I have my business brochure, and can you help me with this? And he says, yeah, go ahead, you know, we'll help you. And honestly, I'm thinking, you know, like, I want a little bit more. I want to do, you know, touch me or heal me, or, you know, tell me everything's going to be okay, or I should do this or that, you know. I was a little disappointed. And he said, go sit there, meditation. So I sit down and I'm thinking, no, I didn't get anything. I'm thinking about my business and how it's going. And as I'm sitting there, all of a sudden this feeling came over me. Like this white light came down from the ceiling, and I was just overwhelmed with this amazing feeling. Just, it felt like being in love a million times greater. And I was crying and crying because it was just so overwhelming. And this voice came to me, and the voice said, what is your higher purpose? Meaning, what do you care about all this stuff? This, you know, this is just, if you want it, it'll happen. If you don't want it, it will just go away. It's, this is where it's at. This feeling, this connection, this is your divine purpose. I'm living in this. This is what you should strive for. And I went, wow, I want to share this with people. And the voice came back and said, so be it. And I mean, it sounds really corny, but I felt like I really connected with God. Never, I mean, I talked to spirits, but never had I had this kind of feeling. And I went home, and I was doing my little, I had a little Monday night spirit circle, and we'd, you know, talk about different things. So this particular night I said, oh, I'm back from John of God. I've got some photos, come over. I'm going to show my holiday pics from John of God. Nothing very exciting in the email. And about 5 minutes later, this lady calls up and she says, I don't know what was in your email, but, you know, I opened your email and it was like this white light came down from the ceiling, and this amazing feeling came over me. And, you know, my wrist I've had problems with for years, and it's working fine. And then a few minutes later I get an email, somebody else. I don't know what happened. I opened your email, I felt this amazing energy, and there was warm feeling in my back, and now my back's working. So that Monday night, all these people showed up saying the same thing. You know, I don't know, I opened the email. Yeah, I opened the email, and I got my legs working, and I felt this, and I got this check in the mail I wasn't expecting. And people were saying that just through opening my email. Almost like these benevolent spirits want to help us. And just the fact that people had somehow connected and said, you know, hey, I want this, that somehow that had allowed them to actually, you know, get a connection and somehow get a healing.
Wow. That's fantastic. Have you ever participated or seen anybody get the eye scraping surgery that John of God does?
Well, you know, he gets a lot of publicity about these physical surgeries, and 99% of the healing is done with invisible surgeries, which is kind of, it's almost like just a little meditation. And then you go back to your hotel room and the spirits work on you, and you can actually feel them working on you. And John of God says all the healing really comes invisibly, but some people just can't wrap their mind around it. So anybody that he assigns this spiritual intervention, he says, if you want to have a physical surgery, I'll do a physical surgery. And he actually takes a couple of people a day as an example, takes them up on stage, and you'll see him actually, you know, cut somebody open, take a tumor out. I mean, no anesthetic, nothing, and they're just standing there, and they say they can feel it, but no pain. And you see them, you know, cutting them open, taking stuff out, stitching them up, and they're not flinching. And I mean, it's dead real. You can get there early in the morning and you can be right there. He invites everybody to watch. He's got, you know, people taking photos. He's got real medical doctors standing by, and he does these. And he does other things, like he does this thing where he puts forceps up a person's nose, and it looks really painful. But people say, I felt it, but it wasn't painful. And eye scraping. You know, they might say, well, I've got backache, and he might, you know, do an eye scraping. Why the eye? Well, they say, you know, the eye is a window to the soul, and that, you know, actually does this. And when we were filming for the documentary, John of God, Just a Man documentary, we interviewed a lot of people who had these physical surgeries. And, you know, we interviewed, crazy stories, wonderful stories. But we were at the end of our filming, and I said, you know what, I haven't done everything. I haven't had a physical surgery. And I wonder what it feels like, which was really the wrong thing to ask. And so I went in front of John of God, and you can't really ask for a surgery, but, you know, I kind of cheated, and I said, I wear glasses for reading. Do you think you could help me? And he smiled, and he said, yeah, we can do a physical surgery this afternoon. So anyway, we have the cameras all set up, and I'm all, oh yes, I'm going for my physical surgery, you know, I'm going to see what it feels like. And I get over the stage, and he takes me, and he puts my head back, and he starts to scrape my eye with a knife. And the first time he comes by, I thought, it's kind of weird, because you can see the knife in your eye, but you couldn't really feel anything. The second time he came to scrape my eye, I mean, he was really scraping my eye, and it really, really hurt. And I'm like, I was shocked. I was like, this guy's really scraping my eyeball with a knife. This is real. And I think I thought maybe it was kind of sleight of hand. I'm like, this is not. And in my mind, I'm saying to the spirits, where's my anesthetic? I'm not supposed to feel anything. This is killing me. And then I actually felt the spirits go, okay, you can have your anesthetic. And I felt them actually just, you know, zone me out. And then I was just like this, and he continued on. So, you know, didn't really get healed, and I think it wasn't that. It was more for me just to, you know, I really absolutely believe there was something spiritual going on, that, you know, he really is doing this, and there really is a spiritual anesthetic.
Wow.
And be careful what you ask for.
Yeah, I guess so. What are some of the more remarkable healings you've heard about?
Yeah, well, I mean, the thing that you notice the most, I mean, I think it probably are these physical healings where you actually see him, you know, maybe cut somebody's head open and take things out, and you go, I mean, there's just no way, you know, to fake these. I mean, these are absolutely real. So those, I suppose, are the most spectacular. But, you know, when you talk to people, that's not, for them, it's more of, the physical healing was not that important. It was more like, you know, I had no direction in my life. I was depressed. I had this problem or that problem, and now I have this connection. I feel this connection. I go home, and everything works much better. And I think that is really more important. It just doesn't get the press that the other stuff gets.
Does he kind of have a spiritual entourage that goes with him everywhere he goes, or how does that work?
Yeah, I mean, we all have spirits around us, helping us, but, you know, when you go to this little place in Brazil, there are definitely, you know, a lot of benevolent spirits. It's like, they call it a spirit hospital, you know, there are thousands of beautiful spirits working with him, and, you know, I think some of the very, very high energy spirits that come through him. When you go up in front of him, you see this kind of glow around him, and you just feel the energy. And it's one spirit that goes inside his body, and there are different ones that work with him. And then there are thousands of other ones that are there working with people. So, you know, it's not just the one, it's many, many. And, you know, they work with us everywhere, but I definitely feel here there's a concentration. And also, you know, we have to ask permission to act, to ask permission to have them interfere with anything. So if, you know, we want to be healed in any way, it's like they're sitting up there waiting to help, but unless we actually tell them to help, they're not allowed to interfere. So when you go to this place, John of God, you're actually, you know, asking permission for things that you'd like help with, and they're there to heal. Whereas I think a lot of time, you know, we're at home and we don't think to ask the spirit world for help. But they're all around us. It's not like just one special place. I mean, we definitely can call in the energies. And again, you know, like John of God says, it's not really the spirits that are doing the healing. The spirits are evolved beings that are helping. But the healing energy is actually, you know, I don't know what you call it, whether you call it God or whether you call it divine source or life force energy, but, you know, it's that connection that we all have. It's not like some special thing. It's we all have it. We all have that connection, and it's just being able to somehow link in and open that.
Are there negative spirits?
Oh yeah, there's always negative where there's positive, and you know, when we do healing work, we always make sure we protect ourselves, which is really simply just, you know, asking angels to be around you or God energy to be around you and protect yourself. But, you know, there are, I wouldn't really call them negative, but kind of lower energies. You know, when everybody passes over to the other side, it's not like we all become amazingly enlightened beings. I mean, there's different variations, shades of grey up there, just like there are here physically. And when you become a healing lantern, you know, you've got all these energies that need healing too that are coming to you. So as a healer, you've got to be careful to protect yourself. And there's a lot of protection at the Casa. I mean, when you're there in that energy, I don't think anything negative could come anywhere near there.
You are organizing an event. Are you like the main organizer for this thing in Toronto?
I am so excited to be part of the group that is bringing John of God to Toronto this year. So March 15th, 16th and 17th, he's actually coming to Toronto. He doesn't travel very much, but he's traveled a few times to Europe. And, you know, I love to take groups to Brazil, but not everybody can, you know, make that long trip and the flight. So Toronto is pretty accessible for a lot of people. And he's going to be there for 3 days. And, of course, he brings his spirits with him. So they come, and he comes in the day before and he sets the energy, makes sure that everything is set up just like it is at the Casa. And he incorporates and he brings in spirits, and you know, people come again. Some will come for healing, some will have, you know, physical ailments. You know, we expect, you know, people coming in wheelchairs and cancer and very difficult ailments. But, you know, some people just come just to be in the energy, just experience enlightenment. A lot of people who are already, you know, working in the healing arts will come because it definitely opens you up, it takes you kind of up a level. And I think it's wonderful for everybody. And he's been to Europe, he's done these events in Europe, and King Solomon came through when he was in Switzerland, and they said that the energy was so strong. You could see people as they were walking up to him on their walkers, and they were bent over, and then as they passed by his energy, they were just, you know, wow, I can walk again. And there was, you know, literally thousands of people healed and getting up out of walkers and wheelchairs, and physical healings as well as all kinds of spiritual healings. So yeah, so that's Toronto. johnofgodlive.com is where you can get your tickets. And most people come for all 3 days. You can just come for 1 day if you want. But you know, the energy is so amazing. It's just great to be there. So I'm thrilled to be part of this and to have him in Toronto.
What are those 3 dates again, the 3 days?
March 15th, 16th and 17th.
And that's johnofgodlive.com?
johnofgodlive.com.
Could you talk a little bit about your book about John of God?
Yeah, well, I mean, there were so many amazing stories to talk about. I ended up writing a book about my experiences. It's called Gail Thackray Spiritual Journeys, Visiting John of God. And it's kind of like my personal diary, and I talk about the different people that I met and interviewed and all the amazing experiences. But it is my personal journey, and I tell it as it is, as I experience it. And I think, you know, when people read it, they kind of get into the story and feel like they're really there. And I've had some strange things with my book. I've had that people have started reading it and they've actually felt the energy coming through in the book. People have said, you know, I had the book and it was by my bedside table, and then at night, you know, I felt like these spirits coming and touching me, and then in the morning, you know, this problem I had with my shoulder, it's much better. And I've actually said, well, just, you know, take the book and put it under your pillow and, you know, see what happens. And people have said they felt the energy. And I think it's when you know, when you read a book and you get into the story, your mind kind of wanders out there, and as you do, you're making that connection again with spirit. And so, you know, that's wonderful to hear that, you know, people not only love the book, but actually, you know, feel the energy from the book.
Yeah, we've posted a couple of your excerpts on ConsciousLifeNews.com, and we've gotten a few really remarkable comments from people who were really touched by it. Now, you also mentioned a documentary.
We did a documentary. It's called John of God, Just a Man, and it follows the story of John of God from being a young boy when he first started to have this incorporation. And we film around Brazil where he grew up, and we interview people that have had these healings. We show some of the physical healings. When we first screened the movie in Switzerland, a lady was sitting in the audience, and as John of God on the film does the thing up the nose, her nose started bleeding. And people were saying during the movie that they were like feeling like they were being worked on, like they were again getting this energy connection from the movie. And you know, it's a wonderful story, but I think it's more than a story. And I tell people, you know, stick the movie in over and over right before you go to bed, just put it in and feel that energy connection. But yeah, it's got amazing reviews. We even got a spirit on camera while we were filming. So we were in the current room, and the cameraman came out and said, oh, the camera's broken. I don't know what happened. There was this, you know, this orb thing, this, you know, this shape on the camera. It was there for like 20 minutes. And we looked at this and we were like, oh, that's a spirit. And then it just kind of, you know, shrunk down and went kapim, you know. It was very interesting filming because, you know, you're working with these energies, and it was like the spirits were directing the film. We didn't have a lot of choice. You know, we had to go and ask permission from John of God to film. Even though we'd filmed there before, we'd been many times, on that day we had to go in front of the entity, the spirit, and say, you know, do we have permission to come into your room and film? And every day we'd go, and John of God said, no, go sit in meditation. No, go sit in meditation. This went on for like a week, and we're like, oh, are we ever going to get to film? And we're standing there waiting to go in line again to ask once again, or, you know, almost given up. And as we're standing there, I watch out of the corner of my eye, I see this lady coming out of the room. She's wearing white, like everybody's wearing white, and as she's walking down the hall, I see flames coming out of her chest. And I look, and I mean, you know, clearly my mind went, there's something wrong with that picture. Mm-hmm. And I actually like went off faint, you know, and I sat down, and they said, are you okay? And I saw something, and they said, okay, it's time to go in front of John of God. And I walked straight up in front of John of God, and I felt this energy go, and he went, whoa, and he said, wow, you can film right now. So I don't know what came with us that day, but we got some extra energy, and yeah, the stories were wild about filming.
That's amazing. Incredible. Where can people purchase the book and the DVD?
Well, the book is on Amazon with all my books, and also my site, which is just my name, GailThackray.com. You can get the DVD and the books and CDs, and learn all about my trips to John of God and John of God Toronto.
Could you spell out your name, please?
Yes, GailThackray.com, GailThackray.com.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Gail.
Thank you.